everybody. Agent in the Fan Podcast. I'm Chris Leible with my partner, Lou Columna. Lou, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. A lot of interesting things have come up on the Aaron Rodgers front, which is pretty amazing. But a lot to discuss.
Yeah. Well, let's go right into it.
Let's do it, man. So listen, now we know. Now there's no guessing. We heard from Aaron Rodgers directly what he said, his feelings about going to the Jets. So now it's a question of chicken, right? Between the Jets and the Packers. Who's gonna blink first? But it's interesting for me to hear him directly and say, listen, I want to go to the Jets. That's on them. They got to figure out the package. I didn't make any demands because that was another thing going around last week. People were saying that, Aaron Rodgers was making demands that he wanted this player and this player and that player. So it's interesting, at least for me, to hear from him directly and see that, like, he's like, hey, man, I'm all in. So that for me was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers obviously doesn't want his message conveyed by anybody but himself. So he went on Pat McAfee, said what he had to say. I think it was interesting, some of the things he spoke about, and but the main take was that he made it clear he wants to go to the Jets. Now it's between the two sides to work out a deal here. What the Jets give up and what the Packers get, or it should be interesting to see. And it's also when it gets done, because there are some factors there. So it's going to be a very interesting process. It already has been, obviously, very, very interesting. I don't know if we say unprecedented, but almost. Maybe it is.
I think he really, listen, he wanted to move on. Obviously, the Packers want to move on from him. They made it perfectly clear. So we know this is going to get done. To your point, right. Is it win, right? Both teams feel like they can wait. Maybe they can. Who knows? Maybe, the Jets want him, in the OTAs as soon as possible. Maybe they don't care about it. Who knows? So that to me is the interesting thing. But lurking in the background still is, the whole, situation with the Ravens quarterback, right? We don't know what's going to happen there. If this takes a little longer than we think, and maybe the Jets get annoyed or frustrated, and who knows? I mean, this is to me what's really kind of interesting about this whole dynamic.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of little things still floating around out there. Obviously, the draft is coming upon us too in a little over a month. So there's so many little factors here, and what'll happen will be very interesting. I've heard different stories, different scenarios. What the Jets give up.
Yes.
I'm assuming there's going to be some decent compensation, but I'm sure we're going to see what the general managers and kind of what they're made of here, because how much they have to give up and what they got to do, because it looks like the deal has to get done. It's a game of chicken, like you said, and it'll be interesting to see how these guys, come to a final agreement here. Obviously, the Jets are already moving forward, signing Alan Lazard and speaking to a couple of his other receivers that he likes. And I don't know if you just saw, but Elijah Moore just got traded to go. Yeah. So that's another kind of space clearer for Aaron Rodgers. So it's been crazy so far. It seems like it's settling in, but again, there's still, I'm not, until this is done, it's not done. And like you said, Lamar Jackson kind of floating out there is an interesting thing too. No one's jumped to sign him. Why? We don't know. Teams he could help. There are plenty of them, seems like. Yeah. Why won't someone make an offer and go for it? The thing is, and of course you're going to know where I stand on this, Lamar Jackson tweeted that his most recent offer and said he doesn't need an agent.
Yeah.
He does. Now, I'm going to say this on behalf of agents, myself and the other ones out there. Lamar, you need an agent, bro.
You need an agent.
You're doing a great job, and you're a great player. And he keeps saying he's got these offers, but he does. And he does have offers. And the Ravens are trying to get a deal with him. But they aren't getting it done. An agent will come in and get the deal done for you. Yep. Lamar, get the deal done, buddy. Get your bag, buddy. Let's go for it.
And listen, the whole thing, going back to the draft pick compensation, I was of the mindset at the very beginning, and I was wrong, that the Jets were going to have to give up a one. It's in particular this year's one. I've gone off of that now. I think inevitably they're going to give up a two, right? That's the thing, which players go where, but that's a whole nother story.
We'll
But
see. I mean, there are a lot of different, possibilities here. I think Rodgers is a wild card. You don't know what you're getting. Is it Aaron Rodgers for 1 year? Is he
yeah,
going to commit beyond 1 year? Doesn't
exactly.
seem like he's going to. It seems like he kind of goes year to year. He's committed to the year now for the Jets, it sounds like. But, maybe I think probably the fairest deal would be to work something out conditionally, depending on him playing beyond 2023. So if he's going to go for the remainder of the contract for the 2 years, and he comes back for 24, then maybe they get a first round pick next year, and and stuff like that. So I think there's so many different things, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm very excited to hear how it's going to play out, and then of course it'll be exciting to see Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform. And another thing with that I find very interesting, what Joe Namath has gone on record saying he can unretire my 12
Yes,
if
I
he
saw
come.
that.
Now, will Aaron Rodgers do that or will he not do that? So
My feeling would be he would. That's my
I
gut
think he
feeling.
will too. But if it was my client and I was talking to him, I would encourage him to choose another number and make a very nice PR move and say, Joe Namath is Joe Namath. He's a legend for a reason. I love number 12, but I think it should stay retired. I'm going to start a new era and I'm going to wear this number. And I think if he did that, he would immediately endear himself to the Jets fans. And I do have a little precedent to be set to that, but I know you want to say something.
No, I said I agree. I 100% agree with you, but he is a little different bird.
No,
He's a
I
different type
agree.
of
I
bird.
agree. I do think he's going to take number 12, but I'm saying I would tell him not to, and I would tell him this is why. And if you look back, actually, we do have a little bit of not the same, but a similar thing. When Mike Piazza, I was working for the Mets at the time, got traded to the Mets, John Franco was wearing number 31.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
John Franco was, he's an iconic Mets player as well. And Johnny was like, "No, you take 31, Mike. That's your number. I'm gonna switch." And Johnny had only worn 31, even with the Reds when he
With
first
the
came
red,
up.
yeah.
And he said, "I'm gonna wear number 45 because Tug McGraw, the old Mets pitcher, Tim McGraw's dad, for you youngins, was number 45. I'll wear his number." And Johnny ended up finishing his career 45. Mike wore the iconic 31 for the rest of his Met career, rest of his Mets Hall of Fame career. So we'll see. That's going to be very interesting. But that's our Aaron Rodgers. Let's move on, Lou. Let's get into the WBC.
Oh, wow. Yes, let's do this. What a game. What you could not have scripted it better than how it happened last night. I mean, it was a great game. I just wish the US had better pitchers. I mean, this kid Merrill was okay, but I would like to see like the Scherzers in there, the Coles, the DeGroms, but
100%. I thought, the US, but ironically, the US losing the game to Japan is what we're talking about, of course. It wasn't because they didn't pitch. It was because they didn't hit. They had plenty of chances with runners in scoring position.
Early
no one
on.
could come through. No one got a big hit. It looked like after a great start to the game, it looked like they were gonna, jump on them early and often. Never happened. Japanese pitchers kept the hitters off balance all night long, and the big boppers, Mike Trout and Goldie and those guys, they struggled. They couldn't come through. They had plenty of chances. Schwarber hit a home run eventually, but he came up came up with two guys on a 3-0 count, swung 3-0, popped out. Trout was up, looked like he was about to get hit with a pitch, somehow dodged the pitch, but it hit his bat. So that was fascinating to see. but they didn't get it done. Trey Turner was
Trey
spectacular and
Turner, yep.
another home run, but a lot of people, a lot of the Mets fans were questioning, where's Pete Alonso? Personally, I think Pete Alonso, you got to find a way to Pete Alonso into that game last night.
I mean, I agree, but I mean, you got the
It's a
MVP at
stacked
first
lineup. You
base.
can't go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you
But
got the
but
MVP at first
but
base.
a couple of the guys have been struggling. Perhaps change a little bit of a change would have made some difference. But look, it was a great game. It was exciting. The Japanese team is a different breed. They play the game a different way, really an old school way, and they're great at what they do. And you know what? In a one game setting, look, if they played 100 times, the U.S. probably wins 80, or 70, something like
but
that.
You know what? Let me tell you something. That team is no. I mean, they have some legit players.
No question, but I think if you play a regular season against them, look, maybe I exaggerated when I said 80 or 70, but I think they're going to win 60 out of 100, really.
Yeah.
But again, you're not going to find too many guys throwing 101 miles an hour like you're going to find in the major league bullpens, but they throw junk, they keep you off balance, and the hitters, they didn't get it done. So last night anyway, but an exciting series, so many great games. Sure. The Japan game against Cuba, U.S. versus Venezuela, those semifinals, those knockout games are so intense because it is a one-game thing. But baseball really isn't a one-game sport.
Exactly.
It's not like football. So that's the thing. And
that's what made this thing. I mean, this is what makes, to me, the WC tournament so much fun, right?
Yeah.
It's not a 7-game series, and it brings out that excitement, that NCAA, winner take all excitement, because and that to me resonated throughout the games. The Dominican team, the Puerto Rican team, the Venezuelan team, the Mexican team. Wow, I mean, and you saw. I mean, yes, that pride and it was fun, but the one thing I took from this that I didn't see so much in years past is there was like some intensity. These guys have fun, but this year felt it was like there was like an intensity to it that was much more fun. And to see, I mean, the scripted ending of Trout versus Ohtani was like,
well, that's what I think everybody's been waiting for, because these guys haven't gotten over the hump and gotten into the playoffs. And to see, these guys on the big stage was fun and exciting. And just the whole series was fun and exciting. And some of the things that we got to see, and even just some of the stuff when the guys get on base, the U.S. team does the salute, the British team does the cup of tea, the Italian team does the hand gestures. Our buddy Alex Katz was had on his Instagram post where they had on the Team Israel, we're in the dugout where they have the Gatorade, and they usually have a Gatorade in a water bottle, cooler. It said Manischewitz on it, the Jewish wine. So very, very fun, cool stuff. Exciting tournament, and it was great. But let's go to the other side. You saw two guys go down that are one. Edwin Diaz, the Mets, superstar closer, really an invaluable part of their team, get hurt in a celebration on the mound after a big win. Devastating. And then, of course, Jose Altuve, getting hit in the hand with a pitch, and now it looks like he's out for 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months, yeah.
And I mean, those are two. I mean, look, you might be looking at the two favorites, one from the National, one from the American League, and two extremely key players. So to see that and have that happen is devastating to these teams. As an agent, you obviously don't ever want that to happen. But I do have to say, because no one's getting paid off of that, so the agents don't like that, I'm sure. I know I don't as an agent, but what the good that this tournament did for the game of baseball, I think at the end of the day outweighs some of these risks, and some of those are two kind of freaky injuries.
Yeah.
You
And
don't see every day.
I agree. And listen, I'll preface it by saying, you know, these guys know what they're getting into in these games, right?
Correct.
And if it was my guy, if it was Aaron Judge, I'd be shouting from the rooftops. I'll, full disclosure. But to your point, it's great for the game. First of all, the ratings say it, right?
Right.
It, I mean, the ratings were in Japan were through the roof, in South America through the roof, in the Caribbean through the roof. So it's great for the game. And you know what? I was thinking about this. I remember Chipper Jones. I think he tore his ACL running to first base in a spring training game, and he was out for the year. Who's to say that Edwin doesn't go back to the Mets and he's fine, and then a week into spring training, this happens. Mariano Rivera, got hurt in the outfield shagging fly balls in a regular season game.
No question, no question.
Season,
injuries are always a part of the game, but the fact that they happen in this tournament is something to discuss and talk about. But I think the greater good outweighs the other side. And I mean, maybe Mets and Astros fans don't agree, but it is what it is at this point. And like I said, I think to end it like it did in an exciting fashion, at the end of the day, these countries and the patriotism, like you were saying, it's just a nice thing, and it's a great thing for the game. And I think a lot of the kids are getting into it. I know my kids were your kids watching?
Yeah, my kids too. That to me, listen, that's the end game, right? Get these kids back, enjoying. I mean, my kids were glued because they knew it was one and done, right?
Correct.
And they were glued to it. I mean, they came down this morning like, man, what a great game. They were upset the U.S. lost, but what a good game. So I think that has resonated, and I think for the next time, I think people will see that. And listen, we still got the regular season, these rule changes, which we spoke ad nauseum. We'll see how this plays out. But I really wanted to discuss, Willis Reed.
Yeah. So, a true gentleman of the game. I didn't know him well. I had the opportunity to meet him a couple of different times. I don't know if you ever met him, but he, from everybody I know who knew him, just a great guy. And of course, his impact on the game, in particular to the Knicks, is just, it can't be stated enough. I mean,
without question. I mean, he, was a gentle giant, two-time champion, really, to me, personified what the Knicks at that time were. Coming, we all know, the coming out, hobbling. We all know that, but just his day-to-day, his numbers, to me, the greatest Knick.
No, look at you're talking about
Patrick.
But you're talking about a great team, where you're talking about Clyde
with
Frazier.
Bill Jackson, by the way.
He was the backup center. But Clyde Frazier and Dave DeBusschere and Bill Bradley went on to become a senator, and all these outstanding, not only basketball players, but quality human beings. He was the captain. He was the captain. He's from a historically black college out of Grambling. And for this guy to come in here and have this impact, not only on the organization, not only on the city, but on the entire NBA, and in his later years ended up being the general manager of the New Jersey Nets.
New Jersey Nets, and he did a good job. He did a good job.
And did a very good job, and just a true gentleman. And those guys. It's sad to see someone like this go. But what this guy did for the game, and if I'm sure a lot of people had a chance to watch some of the highlights and see what he did, especially in 1970 when he came back, and obviously before our time, but at the end of the day, to see him come back and do what he did and lead the Knicks to their only 2 titles, just outstanding, player, character, individual. You're talking the total package of a guy, and I've had the honor of knowing and meeting Clyde Frazier, a bunch through the years. He's certainly a man around New York City, and just you're just talking about a different level because Clyde Frazier, Joe Namath, Willis Reed, guys like that ran New York City. Tom Seaver, back in the day, and they did it with a class and dignity, and and it was just they were outstanding players, but outstanding individuals, and just icons on and off the court in this case.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is really, to me, was it was when I heard about it, I was like, man, like, you just you just felt it as a Knick fan, like one of our guys is gone, and so he's gonna be missed. But you know what, we have everything that he left behind, to enjoy, and I think his fans really appreciate that. I do want to talk about one last thing. Rick Pitino to the Johnnies.
Yeah, no, that's exciting stuff. I think. I mean, I think it seems like it's a
And by the
match
way,
made in heaven.
I don't care. They're not the Reds. They're not the Red Storm to me. They're the Johnnies or the Redmen. I'm sorry. But anyway,
Well,
I digress.
Yeah, so obviously, Rick Pitino is a real exciting hire for St. John's. St. John's really ran New York City in the '80s, and they were right there with the Yankees and Mets, and and the Giants. In football, as the big teams in the city, and their battles with Georgetown in the Big East. And Rick Pitino was just getting started as a coach back then in Providence. So it's kind of a throwback to the old Lou Carnesecca, John Thompson, Jim Boeheim days. Jim Boeheim just retired at Syracuse.
Yeah.
Those guys, back in the day, and I was a kid, kid at the time, we going to the games. I used to go to the Big East tournament every year and all that stuff. And we used to go with friends, and to go to those games, they would call a timeout, and the teams would go to the other team would go to the positions. They knew each of the back of their hands. They would go to the spots that the players before the players that were running the plays would do, because all those guys knew each other. So to me, Pitino going back to St. John's is a throwback to the good old days of the Big East. And
oh man,
I think college basketball is better when St. John's is in there, because New York City is a fertile recruiting ground, and they haven't done as well with the top guys out of the city. And to be able to have a Rick Pitino come in, and for all he's done on the pro level, obviously at the college level, Louisville, Kentucky, goes on and on and on, all the great things he's done. It will be exciting, I think, to see him come in and do what he does at St. John's.
No, I agree. I mean, to me, that's a great hire. To your point, I miss what the Big East was. I miss it. Those battles. And that's the other thing. You can I used to be able to tell you who was who on every team.
Yeah,
same. That now. Same.
Well, the game has changed and the world has changed, right? Yeah. Guys come in for 1 year. The top guys come in for 1 year and leave. But there's no, back then those guys stayed for 4 years. Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullen, Eric Coleman, all those guys stayed for 4 years. They were the first pick, top of the draft. But they, you knew every year they were going to come back. Now you transfer portal, and the top guys, it's a business decision. They have to go and get their money.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I was always, I was a big Syracuse fan. I mean, I used to love watching like Ronnie Cycli, Derek Coleman, Billy Owens, Adrian Autry, Conrad McRae. Look, it's
Pearl Washington,
Sherman Douglas was another one.
Douglas, yeah.
I mean? And by the way, Adrian Autry is the new head coach of Syracuse.
Yes, Adrian Autry took over, which is exciting. But there's an example right there, by the way. Adrian Autry was a New York City kid who I think was choosing between St. John's and Syracuse. So was Pearl Washington. They went up to Syracuse and had great careers. And that's exciting that Red Autry is taking over for Jim Boeheim after all these years. Funny story. Miami was playing the winner of the Syracuse I'm trying to remember who. I think it was it Providence game? No, it was I'm sorry, Syracuse Wake Forest game. Yeah, it was an ACC game in the ACC tournament. So they played at night, and the next morning, my 9-year-old woke up and he said, "Dad, who won? Who are we playing? Who's Miami playing? Wake Forest or Syracuse?" I said, "Syracuse lost. Wake Forest won at the buzzer, or at the end of the game." But Jim Boeheim retired after the game, and he goes, "Oh, really?" And I go, "Do you know who Jim Boeheim is?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's Buddy Boeheim's dad. The guy coached 40 years at Syracuse, and so I thought that was very funny.
Oh my God, that is. Listen, great career. I mean, Jim Boeheim is Syracuse.
Legendary. The guy started in the 70s. I mean, was there forever. He played at Syracuse back in the day, and to come in as a young man, take over that program and do what he did for all those years is just incredible. He's an all-time great. Not necessarily the favorite of the media. He was a little snippy sometimes
Yeah,
with them or
he was a little
whatever.
prickly. He was a little prickly.
A little prickly at times, but it's funny. He ran the same defense. He ran the same zone all those years. He won with it, so nobody can take away with him. No one can take it away from him. The guy recruited, and he did a great job. So, best of luck to him. And but I think, Lou, that wraps it up for today. Good stuff here. We will be back very soon. Stay tuned and check us out on YouTube. If you're still watching us on Spotify, we're on YouTube, coming to podcast soon.